Hello and welcome to What's Your Story? We have a person with a very interesting story today. Her name is Agnes Botelho, and thank you, Agnes, for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
I really appreciate it.
Well, I think it's exciting that you're running to be a judge.
I am.
Yes.
I am.
Now,
yes.
what would make you do that?
Well, I have been a Chief Deputy District Attorney at the Clark County District Attorney's Office for almost 15 years.
Well, you don't look that old. What do you mean for 15 years?
I am. And so I have been in the courtrooms day in and day out for almost 15 years. And I've seen a lot of changes in our judiciary and our criminal justice system. And at some point, particularly in the last 2 years, I've seen kind of a shift, and it's not a shift that I necessarily agree with or that I like. And it's less of a focus on victims' rights and less of a focus on community safety. And that was very disheartening to me as a prosecutor, because of course, as a prosecutor, I've spent the last 15 years representing victims and ensuring, the safety of our community.
Yes.
And as I've entered into the various courtrooms, particularly in the last few years, it just broke my heart how little regard has been given to people who have suffered at the hands of violent career criminals, and how little is being done to ensure the safety of our community in terms of bail, decisions on who should be released, pending trial and things like that. And so, at some point we're in my office and I'm complaining. Everybody's complaining.
Everybody complains.
Everybody's complaining. It's just a complaint session. And we found out, and we were aware of this new department. I'm running in Department 16, which is a justice court. And so far, 2 weeks into the filing start to file for candidacy, there was only one person running. And, as we're sitting in my office complaining, the various deputies and other people around my office at the time said, we can't let her run unopposed. It would be very dangerous for our community and for victims. Someone's going to have to step up. And all eyes looked at me.
Yes.
And frankly, Judy, I had never contemplated running for office until the last few years, because I have a 3-year-old son. He just turned 3. And I love being a prosecutor. But at some point, you have to put your money where your mouth is, stop complaining, and try to be the change that you want to see.
Yes.
And so, in the longest answer ever, that's why I'm running. That's why I'm running for Justice Court Judge.
Yes. Well, it's quite an undertaking.
It is. It is. I thought I was busy as a working single mom. However, I just did not understand what that word was until I started campaigning full time as well.
Right.
I mean, any free time has just been sucked up and taken up by events and things like that.
Yeah, the campaign trail must be excruciating.
It is. It is. So I start out in the morning, going to work, handling my calendars, seeking justice. And at lunch, there are activities. I think I met you at a lunch.
Yes, you did. You met me at a lunch.
So it's time to jet out for lunch, meet some people, go back to work, finish work, and then there are night events as well.
Yes.
Because, the truth of the matter is with campaigns, votes matter.
Yes, they do.
And the more people that you meet and have, personal one-on-one contact with, the better it'll be for me in the end, I think. So
yes. Well, it's important that people get to know you.
Yes.
Because I think so many times people vote without knowing who they're voting for.
Absolutely.
And so what should I know about you if I'm going to make my decision to vote for you?
I have a very, very varied background. I was born in the Philippines.
Oh, really?
Yes. And we moved to Hawaii when I was 8 years old. And I went to high school there. I moved to Las Vegas when I was 18 years old, so I've been a resident of Las Vegas for 24 years. Las Vegas is my home.
Right.
It has become my home. I've set roots down here.
Well, 24 years is
The
a long time.
I'm basically a local at this point. And, you know, my family, we grew up poor, of course, in the Philippines. My mom was also a single mom at some point for long stretches of time. And she worked 2 jobs to put my sister and I through school, high school. I, of course, put myself through college. I graduated from UNLV, and I also put myself through law school. I'm a graduate of Boyd School of Law. Immediately after graduating, I studied for the Nevada Bar, and I passed it the first time.
Good for you.
I know. I didn't think I would, but I did, thankfully. And 2 days later, I started my job at the district attorney's office. It's my dream job. I've always wanted to, you know, be the voice of people who have been wronged. And I wanted to have that sort of role in getting justice for them. I have a 3-year-old son.
You said that, and I was surprised to hear that. When do you get to spend time with this child?
Oh, I have to carve out times in between. And, you know, I don't want people to get the wrong impression, but there are times where I just will refuse to go to a campaign event because I feel like I'm losing touch with him.
Yes.
And it's sad, and I knew that was going to happen.
Well, I think people will vote for people that family is important. You know, I think if I know your family is important, I'm gonna think, oh, this is a person I want to vote for because I want someone who has family values.
Yes, yes. And thankfully for me, his father and I, although we're not together anymore, we co-parent wonderfully, and we're actually really good friends. And so when I thought about running for office, I had to have a conversation with my mom. She actually retired when I got pregnant. She was so excited to have another grandchild. And I asked her for help because she watches Jordan during the weekdays all day while we're at work. And I said, Mom, at some point I'm going to have to go to events at night, and so I'm going to be home even later. What do you think about that? And she said, anything you need me to do, baby, if that's how I can help you.
Isn't it nice to have that family support?
It is wonderful. I can't even imagine running for office and having a child, or just even without a child, not having that support system, because there are days where you're just exhausted beyond belief.
Oh, I'm sure.
And I'm looking at myself in the mirror, tired as can be, and thinking, why are you doing this? Why would you do this? You lived a quiet life. You loved your job. You love your job still. But, you know, they remind me. My mom said, you know, when you came to me and you said you wanted to run for office, I asked you why. And she says, none of that, nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. You still want to do good by this community, and so you're going to need to do it. Just finish what you started.
Yeah.
Try your best.
Yeah, exactly. Now, when you get elected, and I'm saying when,
Okay.
because
We'll claim it.
We're going to think real positive here.
Okay.
When you get elected, how will your life change?
You know, it is going to open up a little bit of time with Jordan because I won't have trials. As a deputy DA, and I'm obsessive by nature anyway, I've completed 45 felony jury trials.
Oh my goodness.
Most of them were very serious, robberies, shootings, murders, and I've handled thousands and thousands and thousands of cases. But the schedule of a trial attorney, particularly of a DA, because our workload is so high.
Yes.
And we are very short-staffed at the moment. You know, when I'm in trial, as I anticipate I'll be in trial May 16th, starting May 16th on a homicide, you eat, sleep, and breathe work. And
So you mean to tell me it's not glamorous like on Law and Order?
No, not at all. We're not having martinis in the office, you know, discussing trial and what happened. And we don't have time to go to bars either, you know, with the defense attorneys talking about our wins and our losses. That just doesn't happen. And so, yes, you live, breathe, eat, sleep, hardly. And I don't get any time with Jordan. And so, you know, as much as I love my job, that kind of environment is not as conducive to having such a young child.
Yeah, so it'll actually be better for him and for you.
It will be.
Yes.
It will be. Now, the Justice Court, you're on search warrant duty, which means, you know, 2 weeks, I think, every few months, you're on 24-hour call duty, and so police officers will call you at any time of the night, so you can approve search warrants and things like that. I mean, a lot of people say that's horrible, but you know what? That happens to me as a DA. We already have a search warrant phone,
Yes.
and you're already on the officer involved shooting, you know, call list. And so, I mean, that's not that big of a change for me. It'll just be a different role, and in turn, I won't have to bring work home,
That'll be nice.
which I do consistently. And so that's one way it'll change. Life will change, but the role will change too. I'll have to go from advocate to, you know, making the decisions. And I have to say, I don't think that's going to be that big of a change either, because there's this big misconception about district attorneys. You know, when I say, hey, I'm a prosecutor, a lot of people are either, oh, you know, afraid. I'm like, well, you don't have anything to worry about if you don't commit crimes.
Exactly.
You'll never have to meet me. But a lot of times, you know, certain people will think, oh, you know, we're just after convictions. We don't care about, you know, the actual people that we're prosecuting. And that's not true. That's not true at all. As a deputy district attorney, I find my role to be balancing so many different interests. And that's actually the call. That's my ethical obligation as a prosecutor. I have to make sure things are on the up and up with investigations by the police.
Right.
I'm not going to prosecute an innocent person, and I'm not going to prosecute someone when there is not proof beyond a reasonable doubt that they committed a crime or these crimes that we've charged.
Yes.
But I'm also going to be very concerned about my victims. And if you were to research me or look up some of my cases, I become part of my victims' families, especially on homicides, you know, or attempted murders, because I get to see the carnage of what happens to families and to victims after they've been violated in the most violent ways. And so, of course, I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about getting justice for them. And so any outcome will take those two things into consideration. But then there's a third factor too, and that's community safety. I have to look at this individual. And again, the misconception is, well, you got a conviction, so now you're going to send this person to prison. That's just not true. We don't send people to prison, or we don't advocate for prison on, you know, measly drug offenses. We don't, if someone has a mental health issue that we can catch early and quickly, we're going to divert them to some sort of treatment,
Yes.
even drug treatment. Veterans, we have a veterans court in justice court and in district court. We understand that veterans have, you know, different and unique circumstances that could cause, you know, maybe a combination of mental health issues, drug abuse, as well as, you know, PTSD, homelessness, and things like that. So we take that into consideration. And as a DA, when I'm making offers to resolve cases, a lot of the times I will agree to send someone to a treatment program in lieu of, you know, jail time or prison time.
Yes.
Because as a society, we want to address these issues early when we can, because it reduces recidivism. Treatment programs, you know, to some extent help people who want to be helped.
I'm sure.
The people that we are going hard and tough on are the people who consistently and commit crime. And not just any crime, we're talking violent crime. I'll give you an example. I was in justice court, and I won't say which judge I was in front of, but there was an individual who had robbed at gunpoint 4 to 6 CVS and Walgreens pharmacies. And he was an older gentleman, as I looked over, and we're arguing bail. And the public defender is arguing for release. You know, citing that this person's not a danger to the community, or a flight risk.
No, they just rob CVS's with a gun.
Correct.
More than
Multiple.
one. Yeah.
Multiple. And I look at this person's criminal history. We have a printout. And this person in the 2010s, 2015, had just gone to prison for a robbery. And rewind another 10 years before that, had committed yet another robbery and had gone to prison for that, along with some piddly stuff. And mind you, this person wasn't from here, he was from California. And I get up and I'm arguing with the judge. I say, well, this person keeps committing crimes and the same type of crimes, and they're violent and they're dangerous, and at some point he is eligible for what's called habitual criminal treatment in Nevada. And I said, basically, he's committed a robbery every decade for the last 30 years, and the only time he has not committed a robbery was when he was incarcerated for an extended period of time on the prior robbery. And do you know she released him on his own recognizance with some sort of high-level electronic monitoring? And I sat there and I thought to myself, you know, this is why you're running. This is why you're running.
Yeah, because this person evidently likes to be in prison because they keep doing something to get themselves back there. And so if he didn't make it his goal this time, is he going to do it again?
Yes. And I just thought to myself, well, okay, he's not even from Nevada. So there are all these statutory factors that you have to consider. And so he has no ties to our community but for the criminal activity that he is perpetrating on people who are just working, trying to earn a living, you know? And so that was offensive in so many ways. And I just thought to myself, you know, if he shows up to his next court appearance, you know, because that's a big if. Now he's facing mandatory violent habitual treatment, which means he will definitely go to prison if convicted of another robbery. I mean, what incentive does he have to come back and face these charges? No. Or, you know, to stop committing offenses? Because at some point it's like, let me just get it all out of the way. I'm going to prison anyway. I'm just going to go do whatever I need to do, you know, get it all out of my system before I have to spend another however many year-long stint. And so it's just so disheartening what's happening. And you indicated earlier during this interview that people need to know the judges that they're electing.
Yes.
And it is so unfortunate because like you stated, people don't know who they're voting for.
No.
They're looking at names and they're looking at signs and they don't know what these people stand for. You know, one of my opponents, she's a public defender, but she's not telling people what she does for a living. Because people think public defender, oh, she's defending the public. No, actually, she's defending individuals who have been charged with raping and molesting vulnerable segments of our population. And she spent her career defending only one person's rights and not factoring in the victims that she's cross-examined or, you know, I mean, these are all rights that we have as citizens.
But we do have to have people that do defend those people.
Absolutely.
To have a just system.
Yes, yes. I am completely in favor of having, I mean, our judicial system is the best we have in the world.
Yes.
Because we have such high standards. And I'm not saying anything about that because, look, I've had people in my family get in trouble. And yes, we've used defense attorneys. I have friends who consistently ask me, hey, you know, so-and-so got in trouble. Who would you recommend? And I guess my point with that is we need people who can balance all of these interests, who have experience in doing so, who we can trust to do so. And so the only way people can make that decision is if they're informed. And so if you have an individual running for office who is not really saying what they do, how can you make the appropriate decision when it comes time to vote? You know?
Right. That's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show, because I wanted people to get to know some of the candidates who are running, because I know so many people that tell me, oh, well, when I get there and I look, I just see if there's a woman on the ballot, so I mark for a woman. Or I just look at a name that's more familiar and I I mark that name, and or they've got a lot of commercials on TV, so I mark.
Yes.
Well, we don't know that that person is going to be the best person.
No.
And so it's almost, you might even be better off not to vote than to
Yes.
just do that.
Yes, yes. And it's unfortunate because Justice Court, the court that I'm running in, it's a new department because, of course, crime is up. Homicides are up 50% in our valley.
Really, 50%?
Yes, 50%.
That's shocking.
DUIs are just out of this world right now. People are dying on our roads. And so they created a new department, Justice Court 16, which is the department I'm running in, to help handle some of these new cases, this uptick in crime. But Justice Court is like the first level of court. Once someone's arrested, they go before a Justice of the Peace. And we decide bail. We decide if there's enough evidence so that the case should go forward to trial. And so we are what's considered the People's Court. If I were to explain it in a simple way, we are the People's Court because we are the people that we are the judges that victims are going to appear in front of, 2 weeks after they've been victimized for a preliminary hearing. We are the people that a defendant who has been taken into custody 1 to 2 days after they were taken into custody, we're the judges that they're going to see who are going to make the determination based on bail and things like that.
Right.
Misdemeanor DUIs, misdemeanor battery, domestic violences. I mean, we are the people that most likely are going to be seen
Yes.
by the public.
Right.
And so it's very, very important. Not just during an election cycle or not just, in the months preceding an election,
Right.
but during. You need to know, our community needs to know what decisions these judges are making.
Exactly.
All the time. And I think it's unfortunate that there really isn't a way to do that. There isn't someone monitoring it. There isn't someone who, quote unquote, will blow the whistle on what's been happening. Because I think if the public knew some of the decisions, some of the bad decisions that have been coming out of Justice Court, they would be offended and probably moved to vote.
Yes.
And so hopefully there's a way that we can figure that out. It always shocks me that people have such strong opinions about the criminal justice system and will talk about its failures.
Yes.
From having watched 15-second clips on the news, when really you can drive down to the courthouse and sit in any courtroom. It's a public courtroom.
Yes.
You can sit and you can watch.
And
or
it's
serve as a
very
juror.
interesting to do that.
Yes.
Yes. And how many people try to get out of jury duty, for goodness sakes?
Everyone.
I mean, I feel like it's my responsibility. If I get called to jury duty, I show up because if I were on trial
Me too.
and I wanted a jury of my peers, I mean, I'm talking peers.
Yes.
I'm not talking just any homeless
Yes.
person you might get off the street.
Yes.
I don't want those people making decision on my life. I want intelligent, bright people.
Yes.
So that's why I think, well, if I'm on jury duty, I'm going to be there.
Yes.
And I can't tell you how many people I know that are like, oh, I'll do anything to get out of jury
Yes.
duty.
Yes. I hate that.
Well, it's part of our right, and I think
is.
maybe even the fact that you came from another country, you were raised in Hawaii, and then you came here, it kind of gives you a different aspect of looking at
Absolutely.
things. Because like when I lived in South Africa during apartheid, I realized how important voting was, and when I saw hundreds of people turn out to vote for Mandela, not hundreds, but thousands, literally. It was the first time in their life they ever got the opportunity to vote. And then I think how many people here in America don't go
Yes.
vote when it's our right?
Yes.
And they need to get up and do it. I mean,
Yes.
what if we didn't have the right
Yes.
to vote?
I think we really take it for granted, and they're just speaking points as opposed to really understanding. And it's funny that you mentioned if you were a criminal defendant, you would want someone like you with your experience, because I ask people that during jury
Right.
selection. when I'm asking them to be fair, do you think you're a fair person? People will normally say, well, yeah, okay. Would you, if you were sitting in this defendant's shoes, would you want someone like yourself with your experience, with your values, with your life experience? Would you want someone like you sitting on the jury? The answer should be yes, unless there's, some kind of prejudice or something that, that they are willing to talk to me about. I tell my family and friends all the time when they get a jury summons, I beg, I say, please, do not try to get out of it. Do not, because then we end up with just people who don't care,
Yeah, or that are just there to get the
$35 or whatever it is per day because there's nothing else going on.
Yeah.
The jury needs to be a representative of our community.
Exactly.
And so, well, we're not gonna, if you want to sit on a jury and you happen to be a transient at the moment, yes, you can sit on a jury. I just don't know how the jury summons would get to you.
Right. Right.
But we want people with different experiences to test out the evidence.
Exactly.
I mean, the jury is the conscience of our community.
It certainly is. Well, this has been fascinating, and our time is running out. I'm like, oh my goodness, you're such a smart woman. You're brilliant. It's nice to be about somebody that just says, this is how I feel. And I really appreciate that about you.
Thank you. I don't know if that works
Is there
for me
something we should tell the audience about how they could reach you if they want to know more about you?
Yes.
If you could tell us that.
Yes. You can reach me. I have a website on Agnes. It's agnesforjudge.com. Very easy. It's for the number 4. So agnesforjudge.com. You can also find me on Facebook or Instagram. On Facebook, it's just Agnes Botelho, and on Instagram, it's Agnes for Judge. You can message me, talk to me, ask me whatever. I've had people actually direct message me on Instagram and Facebook to ask me my thoughts on certain issues, and I welcome it because I want people who are involved and who are informed to vote. I think that is necessary. And even if you don't vote for me, after you look up my credentials, although I'd argue that I am the most qualified candidate for this position, I would prefer that it be someone not just picking a name off, the ballot, one that sounds right or, that you've seen, a million times, but based on what this person believes in and what this person plans to do if elected. And so please look me up and, by all means, please vote. The primary is June 14th.
Great. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining us on What's Your Story. And listen, if you have a story that you'd like to share, contact me here at WWDB TV, and we'll tell people what your story is all about. Thank you for joining us.
Judy, I really want to thank you for asking me to come down to Laughlin with you to the Florida de Greco's Fine Art Gallery. I was blown away. I could not believe the size of that place and the amount of art that they had there. And you are now hanging some of your art there, right?
Yes, well, you helped me hang it.
Duh.
Yeah, it's absolutely a beautiful gallery. And she's got over 70 artists, incredible art, everything from realism to abstract to stained glass to sculptures. It's just amazing, all the different kinds of art that she has there in that one gallery. And who would expect to find that in Laughlin, Nevada?
I never would have thought that.
When I was first told about it, they said, oh, you've got to go see the art gallery in Laughlin. I was like, oh yeah, sure. And then I got there and it was absolutely beautiful. And there's such an array, such a choice of the kinds of art that are there that if you were looking for something for your home or your office, you would find it.
I couldn't believe the diversity of art that she has there. Like you say, there's sculptures, there's paintings, there's
jewelry,
just you name it, she's got it. And she is such a sweetheart. I really, really enjoyed meeting her and got the little tour, and yeah, that was awesome. And like you said, it's what, hour and 10 minutes down southeast of here in Las Vegas?
Yeah, it makes a nice day trip.
Oh yeah, and it's just to get out of town. I mean, it's too bad that we had to be back so soon.
Yes.
I could have spent the whole day there just walking around looking at the stuff.
Right.
So anyway.
And it's right on the river.
Yes. I can't believe how Laughlin has grown, and to have an art gallery like that, that's amazing.
It is amazing.
So, guys, if you get a chance, take a couple hours, drive down to Laughlin to the big giant mall they've got there now, and check out Florida D. Greco's Fine Art Gallery. The information is on your screen. Thank you.